And in Your America Tonight, Barack Obama is doing everything he can to convince Americans that he is the rightful inheritor of Abraham Lincoln's legacy. Now, with us to discuss the resemblance or lack thereof, well, is Larry Schweikart. He is the author of 48 Liberal Lies About American History and professor of history at the University of Dayton. Professor, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
First off the top, I just remember Abraham Lincoln was a Republican.
Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. I guess they see a similarity because Lincoln spent a lot of money and Barack Obama wants to spend a lot of money. Lincoln, though, had a war to deal with. Obama doesn't. Lincoln is known as the great emancipator. If Obama spends money the way he's planning to, he'll be known as the great incarcerator because we're all going to end up in debtor's prison.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's just go through some of the areas where I think he's trying to convince everybody that maybe, I don't know, he's the modern-day Lincoln. But, for example, he announced his candidacy on the steps of the old State House in Springfield where Lincoln was his legislator. The theme of the inauguration is a new birth of freedom inspired by Lincoln's speeches. Obama's going to be sworn into office using Lincoln's Bible. He's going to spend 3 days traveling by train from Philly to Washington, an identical leg taken by Lincoln, and they're even going to eat Lincoln's favorite foods in a Lincoln-themed inauguration. I mean, it seems like he's obsessed here.
It's very strange. You know, Lincoln was a lawyer, but Lincoln represented corporate interests. He represented railroads and banks. Obama represented Acorn and community organizing groups. There's no similarity there at all. Lincoln believed in the Constitution. Obama didn't mention the Constitution one time that I know of during the campaign.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things that I found pretty interesting is, you know, where would Abraham Lincoln be as it relates to Gitmo? Didn't he put aside civil rights and even shut down press outlets and issues in habeas corpus as it relates to those issues? I think he'd be on a very different side on the Gitmo issue, don't you think?
He would be on a totally different side. He threw into jail all sorts of editors and newspaper writers that were criticizing the war effort. Lincoln believed in winning the war first. That was his primary objective, and if they'd had a Gitmo then, he certainly wouldn't have shut it down.
Well, let me ask you this, because he appealed to, what do you think the major differences are, and why do you think that Obama is taking on, you know, I guess, the impression that he wants to be Lincoln?
Obama, I think, wants to be known as this historic, transformative figure, a guy who's going to change the nation, change history the way Lincoln did. Lincoln had a fundamental grounding in the constitutional principles of liberty, things that you do not hear Barack Obama speak about very often.
What would be the differences on the economy? What would be the differences on national security?
Well, Lincoln was, to a degree, a big government guy. He believed in government, railroad subsidies, and so forth. But most of all, Lincoln believed in free market principles. He believed in the individual. He thought that the individual should rise up to his level through farming and entrepreneurship. So he would certainly be opposed to the kinds of equality that Obama has planned for us in terms of taxes that are going to bring everybody together on some equal level. That's a fundamental difference between the two.
What about Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin? Do you think maybe he spent a little bit too much time putting together a team of rivals? Do you think maybe that was the inspiration for bringing Hillary Clinton on board?
I can't imagine what his inspiration for bringing Hillary aboard was, except that she threw her support to him. Kind of crazy to me. I think he'll regret that move.
Well, if we're going to look back at some of the greatest speeches in history, certainly Lincoln is up there. Do you think they're trying to raise expectations too high as it relates to this speech on Inauguration Day?
I doubt that you will, in 4 years of an Obama administration, ever hear anything that comes anywhere close to Lincoln's Lyceum speech or Gettysburg Address or anything like that.
Is the media too willing to accept that Barack Obama has the qualities of a great president? I was watching Michael Beschloss, or listening to him on Imus's program, and he said, well, he has the highest IQ of any person ever to become president. And then when Imus pressed him, he started asking Imus what his IQ was after making a definitive statement. Is that sort of like Obama mania syndrome?
Look, the press has already made up its mind that this guy's going to be one of the greatest presidents in history, and it's going to take a little bit of reality to start to convince him otherwise. But for the next 6 or 8 months, that's what we're going to hear, Sean.
All right, Larry, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.